Randy, thank you for your time today.
Fine. Thank you for coming to interview me.
You announced as a candidate a number of months ago, and we had an opportunity to speak then. But since then, I know you've spoken to a lot of people and been doing a lot of fact-finding and gathering of information about the city. So I thought we could have a second interview now, talk about where you see the city, what you consider to be the important issues in this campaign. And even the process you've gone through and getting to know folks involved in the city and taking a look at the city's numbers. You're a finance person to begin with.
Right. Well, it's been a very interesting path. I maybe like most residents, I don't know what most people do, but I didn't really pay attention to the city. I didn't really know what the city did versus the county, or where my tax bill money went, what was on my utility bill. Several things that I didn't pay attention to as a regular resident. I was very comfortable living and playing here and didn't really pay attention. And as I got more involved, I began to look at things and ask a lot of questions. And when you get to be a candidate, there are a lot of issues that you want to know about that you're not aware of. So I went and talked to Jim O'Connor, the city manager, for quite a long time. My background is finance, so I spent a lot of time with Cindy learning about the finances of the city. I'm used to looking at balance sheets and income statements, but they're very different. The city's very different than a business balance sheet or the accounting is. And so it took me a long time to get my hands around that. I met with the auditor a few times. Cindy I must have met with for maybe 10 or 15 hours at different times, asking different questions. So I got comfortable with the finances. I met with the police. I met with the utility man, Tom Richards, several times. Met with sewer and water, wastewater, and I learned a lot about what the city does that I didn't know. I have not met with a marina yet. I met yesterday with recreation. I've met with a new personnel person, planning, zoning, public works. And learning where they are and what they do and what their budgets are and that sort of thing. I sat through the budget process, which I was very pleased to see. Getting the city council around a table for 5 hours a day for a week and having department heads come in and talk about their budgets. It was enlightening. So I learned a lot about the city that I didn't know, and I've been very happy with the response I've gotten from people. They've been very helpful letting me ask stupid questions about their departments. And I've learned basically what they do. Some of it I'm going to forget, some of it I'm going to have to relearn, but it's been very good. I really learned a lot.
Through that process, particularly looking at the numbers, how do you generally assess the city's financial condition?
Well, people outside the city who are good at this give it an A+ rating, credit rating, which is a good rating for a municipality like this. So that's a good place to start. The financial community judges it as an A+, and that's good. What I looked at was what's happened over the last number of years. So if you look at the high point of properties and property values and tax rates and stuff back in 07, 06, this city was really doing well. But then from then on, the property values went down about 30%, not quite 30%, but a lot. And actually the millage rate has gone down since then. And income has gone down. You would expect that the city would in order to stay level, would increase the millage rate and try to keep their taxes, their taxable tax income about the same level, but they didn't, and they made up the difference by cutting expenses a great deal over the last number of years. They've cut from about 543 employees down to 396 employees now, which is not quite a third, but it's an awful lot of people. Mm-hmm. And they've really been able to do this without cutting services, being very wise about what they did. They've managed their finances very well over the last number of years, where not many cities can say that, and at the same time they've improved a lot of things. The budget process is very good. Cindy Lawson, the finance person, is superb. And the city keeps very good track of where it is versus the budget, and does a good job on staying on the budget. I've been very impressed by the finances and their control of them, their anticipation of problems, and their handling the problems. I've been very impressed. I do think now we're down about as far as we can go in terms of cutting expenses. There are probably some things that we can do in terms of changing systems around to make things a little more automated, so we could save a little money that way, but not very much. I think we're down at the bottom now, and so we're going to have to be probably spending some more money to pick back up in some areas like roads and things like that we haven't been paying attention to. But I've been very impressed with the financials, much more so than I kind of had expected to see.
Is the city's pension obligation provided for, planned for, or is that a time bomb out there waiting to explode?
It really depends on who you talk to. It's kind of like, you know, some people think debt should be against the law, and debt is a normal way of conducting business and conducting personal life. Pensions are a problem because of this transition from allowing employees who are low paid to have benefits and salary after they've retired from the service. Now the idea is that the taxpayers should only pay for employees their either salary or their benefits while they're employed only. And this transition between one and the other is complicated and it's expensive. We have a pension obligation of about 100 million. That's a round number. It's not quite that, but about 100 million. We've got cash sitting against that of about 60 million. And we've got about a little less than 40 million that's unfunded. And we've got we have a plan to fund that over 10 years. So we're paying 3 million into that, 4 million into that every year. And so we've got a plan to do it. And I think it's a responsible plan. It's what the auditors and regulations provide for, and we've not shirked that duty, which many cities do. On the benefits that are unfunded, we have a large amount of benefits that are unfunded, and that's the health plans and that sort of thing. Once people retire, we pay that on an ongoing basis rather than try to build up a pension for that, or excuse me, a reserve for that. And that's what the law allows. And so we're doing it according to the law. We have not funded 100% of both the pension and the future obligations of benefits. And that's what a lot of people suggest that we do. It's very expensive. We can't do it right now. But most cities in the country are about where we are. We're a little bit better, but we're within the law, and we're doing what we can do, and we're doing it responsibly.
There's been maybe there's even a plan moving forward to restructure the pension plan for the city. Does that make sense to you? Very definitely. I think that all cities, just like businesses across the country, are repositioning the pensions so that they're not pensions, they're contributory benefit packages rather than the pensions. And I think that that's the way everybody's going, and almost everybody in terms of labor relations, labor people are feeling the same thing, that that's the way to go. Some people feel it should happen quicker than others, and some people feel it should happen to existing employees that have signed up with the pension plans. I think people who have signed up with the idea that are sort of bound by contract, I don't think we can break those sort of things, but maybe future employees that we hire, we should have on a different plan. As you look toward the campaign, what are the important issues to you that the city's facing going forward? Well,
I don't think they've changed much. I think everybody's got the same little list of things. I think, and lowest on the list is the short-term rental issue. That's still out there, but it's unresolved. But it's something that people feel fairly strongly about. That in residential areas around here, people shouldn't be able to rent their houses for a short-term thing. It leads to parties and issues within the neighborhoods. That's an issue. It's, as I say, it's the smallest one. The fast train is definitely an issue, and it's one of those things where the railroad has a lot of rights in terms of what it can do on its property, and what we're trying to do is mitigate the effect of the trains coming through. I think it's going to be very difficult to stop it, but I think we might be able to mitigate it so it's safe and easier for the city to take. The train's not going to stop here. It may in the future, but nobody's saying that it will stop here. So we're kind of a donor kind of county. We're helping the project go through, but we're giving, we're not receiving any benefit from it, which is a shame. But I think, frankly, the idea of the ability for us to stop it is probably small. The lagoon is going to be an ongoing issue for a long time, and some of the things that we can do, control the stormwater that occurs when a storm happens and water goes into the lagoon and takes things into it that shouldn't be in the lagoon. Being able to control that is an issue that we're working on, several people are working on. And then the septic, trying to figure out some way to go, maybe not from septic to sewer, but maybe from septic to a step system, which everybody's working on trying to do a test project to make sure that it works within our system. And if it does, that would be a wonderful thing to be able to do, so that our septic doesn't leak things into the lagoon that it's been charged with doing. So we really need to fix the lagoon, because that's a major asset of the area, no question.
There's been some discussion about forming a stormwater utility in order to raise money to accelerate the installation of the baffles at the stormwater outfalls. What's your view about that utility, raising the money in that way?
I think it's a great idea. I think the details of it haven't really been worked out, but I think it's a great idea. The sooner we can get these things resolved, the better for the lagoon. Doing it, I think the original plan was over 20 years, and this is an attempt to get it done in a much quicker time frame that helps cure the lagoon quicker. And I just think that the quicker we can do it, the better.
The council would like to move forward, or certainly is considering moving forward with a blueprint for a utility authority. What's your thought about moving in that direction for the governance of the utility?
At the last council meeting, it was discussed, and I think it had a lot of good discussion about it, and I think it's a very good idea. I think the idea of getting representation for the people that are not within the city is a good idea. Plus, getting some kind of expertise to be involved in it also, not just council people who rotate and don't really have any awareness of how to run a utility. It's a complicated business that not everybody's familiar with, or most people aren't familiar with, and you're making large dollar amount of decisions for a long period of time, and you really want to make them right, and the more advice you get, the better.
Like 20-year contracts for wholesale power.
Right. Big money things for equipment, and big money decisions for contracts, and there's a variety of types of contracts you can get into and stuff. And a normal person, I mean, I've had a lot of background in a variety of things, but I wouldn't trust my judgment in some of these situations. I'd really like to have a lot of expertise at my shoulder helping me. The whole utility thing is an issue. I think it's been voted on by the community to sell the unit, and I think that's a good idea. But this sale has sort of run into problems, and it's a very complicated transaction. It's one that involves 4 people that have to all agree on how to do it. Certainly, Vero Beach has agreed to do it. Florida Power and Light has to agree, and they've agreed to it. We're under contract now to sell to them, but also FMPA, the agency that we are a part of, has to agree, and then Orlando Utility Commission has to agree also, and it's very, very complicated to get everybody to agree on all the issues. And right now, we're not cooperating as well as we should be, and you really have to have a huge amount of cooperation to get all these little details in place to get it to work. Very complicated transaction.
The OUC has to agree, I guess, in the sense that they were to be the buyer of Vero Beach's entitlement shares.
Yes.
And they have said that they're now clear that won't work for them.
Yes.
Right. So no one else has stepped forward to say they'd be willing to be a buyer.
Right. And I'm not, and maybe there's a way around that. I don't know of a way around it, but maybe there's a way around changing the bonds in some other way. I really am not familiar with other ways you could go, but just sitting down and trying to figure out other ways, there may be some other way to do it. I don't know. But clearly the community has voted to do it, and we ought to try until we can't. And if we can't, then this idea of an authority and maybe renegotiating the rates with OUC would be the way to go. Yeah.
Renegotiating the rates with OUC for wholesale power.
That's correct.
To hopefully bring down rates.
Yes. And OUC is a major player in this for Vero Beach because they provide us with about 60% of our energy. So a significant reduction in OUC's rates would be a big deal for us.
There's some discussion about the power plant itself, demolishing it, decommissioning it, mothballing it, some options there as a way of also bringing down rates. What's your view on that? Well,
the plant as a generating unit is not very efficient, and so that the equipment that's in it is on its last legs and doesn't really. It helps us once in a while at peak times, but it's not the most efficient way of producing power for Vero Beach. There's no question about that. We are under contract to keep it open by OUC and by Florida Power and Light. And if they allowed us, and I think they probably would, it would be a good idea for us to mothball it. Mothballing it would save us probably, and this is my estimate, something like $3 million a year, which would be good. But I think the plant is potentially an important thing in the future. That is, it's got a permit to generate power, and that permit is valuable. So, and the space is valuable, the building is valuable. So, you could put a gas generation unit in there and be able to handle peak energy for Vero in the future if that was the way the city wanted to go. But so I think it's not a good time to demolish it, but it's a good time to mothball it and to save that money. And that would bring down rates, not a huge amount, but it would bring down rates. It's about I think it's for every million you bring it down a dollar, a cent, so it's not much, but still you could bring it down.
But if you can save 10 million total, you're looking at a rate reduction of 10%.
Yes,
right?
Yes indeed.
Right. And maybe it's because of the issue of the electric sale. But there have been other issues too that I'm about budgeting, about levels of service, about levels of employment for the city, about what services the city really should provide. Some people use the term essential services, but that's subjective. Mm-hmm. If you have a tennis court on your property or are a member of a club that has one, the Riverside tennis courts are not an essential service. Right. But to some people who love to use those courts and don't have access to other courts, it's almost essential. If you consider recreation and health essential. So there's a debate about all of that. How do you see the city's, its menu of services? Are you uncomfortable with some of what the city's offering? Or how do you view that?
I'm not so sure I am good at comparing it to lots of other cities and say, well, in this city the tennis courts are in better shape, or in that city they're in worse shape, or where we are with everything. But we have 30 or so parks. I've gone to see each one of them, and they're remarkable. They're remarkable in their size and where they are and the number of them, and in most cases how well they're kept up. Some of them could be kept up a little bit better, but I think that one of the things we offer is that number of parks is terrific, and I think that's something that people really enjoy. I went over to see the recreation area, and they were talking about the use going way up, and a lot of people are participating with the Recreation Department and providing more events and things that go on. There are about 400 events a year here that, together with the community and the Recreation Department, that they put on. And I think it's really terrific. If I go around the sort of city and think of other services that are offered, I think the level of services are good. I think in some areas, you know, the road things keeps coming up, because there was quite a bit about that done in the budget meetings, where we're spending maybe $200,000, where probably more like $600,000 a year is more like what we should be spending in order to repair the roads every 15 years, which is what you'd like to be able to do. Mm-hmm. So there are some areas that are more obvious, but I'm not really comfortable in being able to compare Vero completely with what I'd like to see it or whatever. I'm just trying to learn what's there, mm-hmm. and not so much be able to compare it yet. I'm a neophyte at this still.
But you don't look at any of the services and say, no, there's clearly something the city shouldn't be involved in.
I don't. I don't see anything. I mean, there's been a movement of kind of saying sewer and water should be a county one, or the police ought to be county, or the 911 should be, or garbage should be, or something like that. And I feel strongly that those services should be ours. And I think we've looked at each one of them and considered them and decided, for good reasons of either service or cost, that they should remain with Vero. And it's nice to have your citizens doing your work for you, with you, and recognize the trash man every time he comes around, be able to wave and give him a Christmas present and that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's part of the community. It's part of being here, which is really good.
So as you're about to gear up for the campaign, the campaigning work is going to begin here in the next week or so. The forum gauntlet. Yeah. So how are you feeling as you enter that?
Well, I feel pretty well prepared. That is, I've sort of done my homework, and so I feel pretty good that way. I'm not used to getting up in front of a group of people and getting pot shots, and so that's going to be different for me. I've had some of it, but not a lot of it, so I'm a little apprehensive about that. But I'm looking forward to actually the door-to-door solicitation of votes, and I'm looking forward to the process. We'll see. I hope that it doesn't get too unpleasant, but if it does, it does.
Well, I mentioned to you that we'll be having a candidates forum on October 7th, so that'll actually be a roundtable discussion, a moderated roundtable discussion. Mm-hmm. So I hope that creates a format where we can have a more open discussion.
Great. I look forward to it.
So I look forward to that as well. Well, I wish you well in the campaign, Randy, and I thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.